these live chat. So I've just realized that I haven't done something which needs to be done on my computer, which is to turn off the volume of my computer, because I do have the computer running, the video running at the same time, which I see in front of me. And the point of that is to actually see messages as they come through. It doesn't look very clear to me, the picture, but anyway, never mind. I'll leave it as it is. There's nothing I can do about that. Today I'm going to talk about the film, The Battle of the Bulge. I thought that was quite appropriate, actually, because I was just thinking, I've already talked about what was wrong with the film, The Great Escape, and strangely enough, I've got the same complaints about, or some of the same complaints about the film, The Battle of the Bulge. However, these two films are completely separate in many ways, because The Great Escape is largely 2/3 of it is absolutely historically accurate, and when it goes into fiction for the final third, and I think that part of the fiction, although it does convey some of the spirit of the escape, but it does miss out large parts of the escape. And what really it gets wrong is the weather. Sort of conveying it as a sort of a bit of a, I don't know, an excursion, a bit of a public school joke, as many of these prisoners, the way they treated the guards and things, because a lot of them were public school boys, and they sort of reminded them of when they were at whatever public school they went to, and sort of they behaved in this manner. Whereas as far as the Battle of the Bulge film is concerned, it's made at the same time. It was made a year later. The Battle of the Bulge film gets lots of mistakes in it. Some mistakes are explainable, but others are not. And that's what I'm now going to actually talk about. In fact, I'm going to start off with there's a film critic called Bosley Crowther, and he started his career, I believe, in the 1930s, and he said the following about the film. He said, "What is offensive about this picture, and offensive is the word, is the evident distortion of the material and of history to suit the wide cinerama screen. For example, it is the removal of the heavy fog that actually made it possible for the Germans to carry on their tank attacks without fear of retaliation from the air. This is a complete distortion of the weather conditions that made the battle what it was. It's a cruel deception to describe the climax of the Battle of the Bulge as a raging of German tanks against Americans across a broad plain in the manner of a Western movie cavalry and Indian charge. The film will likely be an irritation to those who've had some sober, rueful sense of World War II, and also a respectful regard for the memory of the men who fought and died in the real Bulge." Now, that's the opinion of a cinema critic of the time. And what I'm actually going to mention here, though, is I'm going to mention another film which was made at the same time. Sorry, not the same time. It was made 5 years later, or 4 years later, which is the Bridge at Remagen. And the reason I'm mentioning this one is because the Bridge at Remagen is one of my favorite films of all time. I can hear some noise coming through from here, and I think it's sorry, I turned the volume off and then it's come back on again. The Bridge at Remagen is one of, as I said, one of my favorite films. It's an area I know well. I've been to Remagen several times. I mean, the first time I went there was in 1985, and I've been back several times since. Now, the second time I went back was in 2008, and then I met somebody who was just a couple of years older than I was. He was a German army officer, and we sort of walked around together for a bit. We talked about this, and he was out with the dog in the early morning, and he said to me, the people here in Remagen just did not recognize themselves in this film. Now, when I was there, I also got the book, was the Hecht book, which Ken Hecht, I think, who wrote the book on which the film was based. And he said the same thing. He said when the film came out, even though he was working on the film as an advisor, he said that people in the town just didn't recognize the film at all. But in my opinion, when you actually go there, I think it's absolutely recognizable. And there are some parts that I do appreciate. The fact in the case of the Bridge from Remagen the real battle as such. The biggest part of the battle was the behind. There's the approach to the bridge. You've got the bridge, and behind the bridge there was what they described as a mountain, the Erpelelai, and behind it, and there was a tunnel going through it. And if you like, the real battle was not so much on the bridge as portrayed in the film, but it was for the control of this Erpelelai, which is this enormous volcanic structure, or natural structure, I should say, outcrop, which is on the eastern bank of the Rhine. 2 years ago, I went there for the first time. I'd been thinking of going there for many years, and I went and I spent the night up there. I've got videos from the top of there, fantastic views from there, and that gave a really good impression of what the battle was like. Anyway, so the film itself, where it's got the character of Robert Vaughan, who plays the German officer, which is sort of really 4 or maybe even 5 people combined into one. And whereas the name Remagen stayed the same, most of the other names were changed, although it was pretty obvious who was meant to be who, as it was in the Great Escape film. Pretty obvious who was who. Now, in the case of the Battle of the Bulge, I went there, and okay, first time I went to Bastogne was on the same trip in '85, but I was there in 2017, January 2017. I spent 3 days at La Roche-en-Ardennes, which is probably, I would have to say, the center of the Battle of the Bulge in many ways, because people think it's something like Bastogne. What I would say is La Roche-en-Ardennes. There's this really big museum there, which you can see. I did a video from the La Roche-en-Ardennes, the museum, and I went and visited a number of places around to see what it actually looks like. And to me, what had the most effect was there was one place just outside of Bastogne, and we actually managed to find the foxholes were still there, which had been dug. And we had photographs, and we more or less were able to, or at least we think we found where the foxholes which had been dug outside of the town. Now, when I was there, it was 20 degrees warmer than it was during the real battle. When I was there, it was around 0. It dropped to -7, but that was considerably warmer than it was in 1944, 1945. And so in the film itself, I would say that some of the ideas are there, but it starts off with this rather glaring error with the narration, and it says something along these lines that the describing the front, and it said the British 8th Army was to the north of the Ardennes. Well, I think that's a sort of mistake actually I could make in a video. Somebody pointed out to me that I'd said it was the 7th Armoured Brigade which crossed the Rhine and not the 9th. In my video I did on Remagen, somebody said that a week ago. Oh yes, you're right, I did say that. The British 8th Army, well, it was controlled by Montgomery, was in charge. The thing was, it wasn't to the north of the Ardennes, it was to the south, and it was about 1,000 kilometers to the south in Italy. But maybe they thought because it was Montgomery, and it's a sort of thing, I think, that a mistake that they had all these people on it, but nobody actually noticed. And I think I saw it a couple of times before. Actually, I noticed there was this thing. So why did they use the fictional characters? I mean, why did they have this General Hessler and other people? And there's a very good reason for that, and that's legal. They can't use names because of, in the first case, they might start rolling characters into one, as they did, for example, The Great Escape, or they did Robert Vaughan and Bridget Remagen. But on the other hand, they can also, in this case, there was 2 good legal reasons, and one was because another company was vowing to make the same film. Now, it's also, I think one has to remember the position of the veterans. And Dwight Eisenhower went to see the film just before it came out. I think it came out for the 16th of December 1965, so for the 21st anniversary of the film. Dwight Eisenhower, former president by this time, he got a chance to see it a bit earlier, and there was an article in the Washington Post of the 2nd of December saying how disgusted he was at it, and he was so disgusted that he even called a press conference together to say how bad he thought it was. Now, one has to also bear in mind that many of the veterans of this battle were still in their 40s, so they're relatively young people as well. Now, part of the problem, though, was that Columbia Pictures had been planning to do a Battle of the Bulge film, and not only that, though, it was going to use the real names such as Eisenhower and Montgomery and all the rest of it, and this caused a problem. Even Eisenhower's son, John Eisenhower, he was going to be the technical advisor on the film, and he was going to be writing the book about it. Now, they had got David Niven, for example, to play Montgomery. They got John Wayne to play Patton, and Laurence Olivier to play Hitler, amongst other things, other people. And so that Columbia said that they were going to start filming in 1964, but Warner Brothers beat them to registering the title, "The Battle of the Bulge," and so there was this argument between the two companies, which ended up in court. And part of the agreement in the pre-judicial stage was that Warner Brothers would not use any of the names of the people in the film. So therefore Columbia would drop their claim to using the name "The Battle of the Bulge." Now, the thing is, though, that Columbia did make steps to go ahead with filming. It started to film. It reserved filming to be in Watertown, New York State, and the filming was due to start in the autumn of 1966. And they thought that this would give a more accurate backdrop to the geography of the Ardennes. Now, the thing is, what the makers of the Warner Brothers film used, what you can see in it is, to me, I studied in Spain, and so I know the Sierra, the north of Madrid, and I can recognize some of these places in the film, but this isn't what the Ardennes looks like. The Ardennes looks like probably halfway between what you imagine it to be as being really, really forested and what they actually showed in the film. Now, I do appreciate that the lie of the land is probably a bit different now. Maybe the forest cover isn't as dense in some places, and other places it is very dense. But if you travel around sort of northern Luxembourg and southern Belgium, and you can sort of get an idea of what it looked like. And you can see in photographs, though, as well from it, that some of it looks a bit forested, others it's open fields, and but this isn't the impression I get from looking at the film. So you can see it looks like central Spain. Now, the reason I think it was filmed in Spain is that the Spanish army in those days did a lot of films like this, because they get the Spanish army relatively cheaply to play all these extras. I think there was a number of others. I think Napoleon, for example, was filmed in Spain. I'm not certain of that one. I just think, but others, and not only that, also the Spanish army was still using equipment, and so that was around during the Second World War. So that was another advantage. Now, on the subject of equipment, I mean, a lot of the equipment is in fact incorrect. There's a Cessna plane, which the film starts off with, and it's an an L-19, and that didn't come across until 1949. And a lot of the tanks themselves seem a bit dodgy. I mean, they had to use American patents instead of King Tigers, for example. But given the technology that existed, you can look at today's technology, today's films. They do mock-ups using CGI and all the rest of it, and which they couldn't really do then. So some of the films, these tanks do look a bit suspect. One of the big problem for the German army in 1944 was, of course, fuel. So you had these ridiculous scenes, such as, for example, you could have these super state-of-the-art jets being like the jet fighters, then landing and having to be towed by oxen because there wasn't enough fuel for them to go on taxiing around the runway, the airports, the airfields. And I think that this idea comes across quite well. There wasn't a final battle like that, as is seen in the film at the Battle of the Fuel Dump. That didn't happen. But on the 17th of December 1944, the Panzers sort of did miss by a matter of a few hundred meters a rather large American fuel dump. The final battle, I think, if anything, there was a battle at a place called Celle, which was on the 26th of December 1944. But by that time, the Germans had absolutely run out of fuel. One of the other things as well that the Battle of the Bulge, I didn't really get the idea from the film, maybe it was sort of hinted at, but is the massive traffic jams that occurred. Indeed, you've got there's interviews with von Manteuffel afterwards, and he's 20 years afterwards, and he was saying that his big problem on the 16th of December, he was just running around trying to get the traffic jams sorted out. And indeed, in Albert Speer writes inside the Third Reich that the traffic jams went back as far as the Rhine. How accurate that is, I'm obviously not going to say, but then huge traffic jams, which showed the really, in some ways, the total pointlessness of launching this offensive into this area at that time of year. To put it in a what-if scenario, it would have made far more sense if this weaponry had been kept somewhere in central Poland in a reserve, and Guderian argued for it being kept in the area of Kielce in Poland, and that expecting a Soviet breakthrough along the Vistula, and then to actually counter-attack that Soviet breakthrough. Open plains, it made more sense. The forests area there was the advantage of the tank became a disadvantage, in as much as the infantry can actually approach them quite easily, and furthermore, with the extra fuel that type of terrain would actually take, so it wasn't really suitable. As far as Colombia was concerned, I think that Colombia realized that, well, Warner Brothers has done this now, so we're not going to make as much money as we'd like to have done. And so they actually put it on hold, and then they just scrapped the idea altogether. I think that makes a lot of sense in the circumstances. As far as I'm concerned, I think the film is quite good. I think most people would put it in their top 10. They do have it has an all-star cast without any doubt, and I think it also does show two points of view as well. So it's not like heroism on just one side, as it often tends to be the case. I mean, it doesn't have the anti-war flavor that the Bridget Remagen has, but all the same, it's not a sort of ripping yarn, so to speak, as many other films tended, I think, to be, as far as this type of thing's concerned. Anyway, good. So that's my opinion on the film. I think it's all right, but I don't think it's anywhere in the class of The Great Escape or Bridget Remagen, for example, in my opinion. Anyway, good. So if anybody's got any different opinions, I mean, do put them in. Maybe think it's a fantastic film. So anyway. So, thanks for watching. Hope you found that interesting. I'll try and think. No, tomorrow's Friday, isn't it? I've got a different film. I can't remember what's tomorrow's film about. I can't remember. There's a film tomorrow, and I can't remember what it was. But anyway, there is one tomorrow. Thanks for watching, and all the best from now. Bye for now.